Welcome to the Upshot, Ultra-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield on this Thursday, January 16th. We're still deep in the off-season, but the sponsorship news continues to flow, Josh. Big Jerm, 4 years, MVP, your headline for today. Are you surprised that it's MVP?
I think no, not necessarily. I'm surprised MVP keeps going out and paying these players. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like you pay the Simon one, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then you go grab Eagle, and you're like, okay, he's a crush boy. Then you're like, okay, now I want Big Jerm, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, he's a media figure, but like, that's a lot of money tied up in sponsorship, and it's. I
mean, we don't know how much those guys are getting paid besides Simon.
We don't. And maybe they're on budget deals, but I just think in order to incentivize someone like Jerm to move from Innova, it probably would need to be a fairly good compensation.
Yeah,
and so right, and the promise of Eagle, I think, is similar. So.
You know what's interesting? I've seen some people complaining a little bit, like, why are they signing another guy who's going to take like production away from stock discs when, as a dealer, I can't get stock discs from them ever?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Like, there's been, and we've heard this from plenty of retailers, that like getting MVP stuff is hard, and when you get it, it sells out very fast. Yeah. I mean, it seems like MVP is doing just fine, and maybe it's okay for things to be a little scarce at times.
Uh-huh. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I don't know. Like, it's hard to argue with MVP's strategy because they are doing the best of any manufacturer at the moment. Yep. Not saying that they're the biggest necessarily, but like from a relative performance standpoint, they've dominated the post-COVID landscape. I mean, they've gobbled up market share in an unbelievable way.
Well, and the issue, like when you walk into a disc store and there's just inventory of every other company just like overflowing, nothing gets you to run down to the disc store except maybe an MVP restock.
Right.
Because you're like, I got to get down there. I'm not going to get any. Like, that is motivating. That gets people to buy things quicker. It doesn't sit on shelves. That is not bad business.
You're not wrong. We'll dig into this more in a moment. I have some thoughts. We've got a bunch to get to today, including, lucky us, an interview with Big Jerm himself, who called in yesterday morning from New Zealand with me for about 15, 20 minutes. So great to get a chance to talk with him right after the announcement. And we've also, as we've had all this sponsorship news coming, Josh, there's still like a lot of question marks out there.
Yes.
Gavin Rathbun, we got an email. Let me pull it up so I can give credit to the name.
It was from Nathan.
Yeah. Said that Gavin mentioned during a Whatnot auction that he has a sponsor. He was selling discs that he said he wouldn't be allowed to use anymore. So, not surprising. I feel like this has been the tea leaves anyway, but, if we thought he might be going open bag again, seems like not the case. So, He's got a sponsor. Haiti Lina just announced that she's leaving Clash. And we have a lot of players who we're still waiting to hear what they're going to be doing. Haley King, Joel Freeman, Emerson Keith, all Innova drops. Evan Smith, Robert Burridge, Aiden Scott, Lowry Lettinen, Casey White, Ella Hansen. I mean, Discmania basically hasn't made any announcements yet about their upcoming year's team.
Yeah.
So that is a place where it's like some question marks. We're going to talk about where we think these players are going in our subscriber bonus segment Inside the Circle immediately following the recording of this pod. So get yourself a subscription. It's less than $4 a month. You can join the Discord and hang out, talk disc golf, and catch all of our live Inside the Circle segments. So that'll be fun. I have some guesses on what's going to happen.
Okay.
And we've also, Josh, got to talk about the Climo rollout because they actually allowed us to purchase products now.
Yeah. Yes. We're
I have
done
to
with
say,
the announcements.
announcement without availability of product doesn't make sense to me.
Nope.
Like,
It sure doesn't.
here is the disc that you can buy in the future. Like, why? What's the point?
Yeah. It's interesting because I've been watching the socials pretty closely about these Climo discs.
Yeah.
And it seems like there are three attitudes towards these discs. The first attitude is everything Climo's done for the sport, I am looking forward to supporting him. Right? That does require, for most people, either you got in after COVID and you got in real fast and you're all the way in, or you're a pre-COVID player, right? Who kind of understands that implication. Because otherwise, I mean, the landscape is just very different. And I think a lot of your post-COVID players just aren't as, they might know the name, but they just aren't as familiar with him. So you have that first group. You have the second group that says, oh, this is a AVR Rock Wraith clone. I have Innova discs. I don't need that. And then you have the third group that's like, these designs are ugly. And they've been pretty critical of it. Here's the issue, Charlie. This is the biggest issue that I see with it. I don't see anybody going, oh my gosh, this looks like the next best thing. This looks like the next putter that's going to change my game. The people who are buying it are doing it because they want to support Ken Climo and all that he has done for the game. Not because they're excited about the discs. I'm sure there are some out there.
It's early, right? It's early.
It is early.
So I'm not going to jump to conclusions after one day.
Agreed.
But I feel like they're selling a three disc beginner set.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a beginner set, right?
It does.
Like, the plastic, it doesn't look exciting at all. It doesn't. Like, I'm not even going to complain about the stamp or whatever. Like, it's a prototype disc. Fine.
Sure.
It just doesn't, it didn't get me going yesterday. It didn't get me going today. And I don't think people are going to be excited by this in a couple of months. I could be wrong. They certainly have the opportunity to make really cool plastic runs and do crazy swirl stuff, and that's all fine and good. And I am glad to see that this is seeming to bring Climo kind of back into being involved in some way. But if involvement means hawking discs at some tournaments sometimes, I'm not sure I'm excited about that. I'd rather he just do commentary.
Yeah, we wanted, when Climo first came back and did commentary, we're like, yes, this is so good for the sport.
Because it's the right fit for what he is at his stage of his life.
Yes, and now he's spinning off. I don't know.
I mean, I'm glad for him getting the bag.
Yeah,
cool. And maybe that's what this is. I mean, like I said before, nothing I've said before changes. I don't really know that this is going to be a commercial success, but I think it's symbolic for Discraft to take Climo and put him on their team away from Innova. And they've just robbed Innova blind of their most important players over and over and over.
Yep.
Look at the history here. Macbeth. Then they take the best up-and-comer in Barella.
Yep.
Gannon has never stepped foot in Innova and Discraft worlds. He may someday. Loyalty, there isn't such a thing.
No.
The manufacturers aren't loyal to players necessarily. And the players certainly aren't loyal to manufacturers. They're trying to get a check. And that's fine. It's just admittedly strange for Climo to be gotta get these discs. It's dude, you played for 3 decades with Innova discs. You were you brought them from this tiny obscurity into the global brand.
Yes. They have a plastic type named
after you. We are going to
you.
associate their discs with you regardless of what else you do.
Yes. Yep.
I think it would have been smarter for Innova to try to do something like this. I don't know if it would have been that great for them either, but like they failed, as they often do, to promote their players to the best of their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of just like, we are Innova, we are the brand. And they have not really, they've always been late to the trend of, giving players a brand, giving players opportunity to make a disc. And they've caught on. It's not that they don't innovate, right? Halo, they were first, right?
Yes.
And I don't know.
think they're Halo's best too.
If you had Climo's sub-brand like Jordan at Innova, it would feel right, and people would probably be pretty excited about it.
Yep.
But this just feels like weird.
Feels like a cash grab. And I don't know that it is necessarily. I think that there are better intentions behind it.
Yeah, I do too. It doesn't.
Right.
It maybe is a cash grab in the sense for Climo, but you can't blame the guy if he's not getting the money from Innova.
No,
he should go get the money from Discraft.
Agreed. And that's the thing. I don't blame anybody here. I think makes complete sense for Climo. I understand the symbolic nature of it by Discraft. I don't think Discraft was doing it just for making a quick buck, but like the whole thing about it feels just kind of like gimmicky, not tied to. It's like, oh yeah, this is the Climo legacy, and I'm like, no, it's and then it goes
not.
in. It's not. And I get that you want to copy and paste that legacy onto some Discraft discs, but sorry, that's just not how it works.
But again, if they make cool stamps and they do the Macbeth, the goats disc with. I don't know. You could go Macbeth Page and Climo or Macbeth and Climo. Like, there's plenty of opportunities for them to sell products, and I'm sure Climo is going to get, a nice chunk of money, and maybe it's just win-win for everybody. And again, it does really show the incline for Discraft and what feels like a long decline for Innova. It's taking a long time, but they're losing mind share a little bit. They're losing the prestige, and they're always going to be fine because they make so many discs and so many runs and so many plastics. And I think a lot of people look to them as the premier plastics company.
Yep.
Right? Not necessarily that they have the outright best available thing that there is, but just like with the lineup that they have, if you're looking for a specific disc and a specific stability, like Innova is going to have an option for you in one way or another, right?
And so, Innova has the box store contracts, which means 9 times out of 10, they are the player's first introduction to disc golf.
That's right.
If they find it organically.
I'm not concerned about Innova long run, but they're losing market share for sure.
Yeah, they are.
But, will they be the prescient ones to be slashing contracts, or will it be that they should have been doubling down into players, when in the way that, for instance, we're seeing Discraft do?
Sure. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Discraft has a large team, and it is full of a diverse range of players.
The Climo Discs up on their website right now, they sold out of lightweight putters, and they have a bunch of colors sold out in the other two categories of lightweight putter. Everything's still available in the 173 and up range, and they've basically sold out of nothing for the driver or mid-range. So it's not like there was like some, everybody had to get in there and smash by.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how many they made, but
the other thing to that point a little bit, Charlie, we don't know, they may have made 10% of the lightweight putters that they did of the max weight putters.
Sure.
But if they didn't, if it was, I mean, the fact that those are sold out seems to provide some sort of it could hint at the fact that beginners, people who don't throw as far, people who are not as, they're not looking for these. It's not the top players who are looking for these discs.
No.
Right. Which confirms what we've been thinking.
Like, who's choosing these over other options? Even if, let's say you're a Discraft thrower or your Discraft Pro. Are you putting these in your bag? No way.
You putting the Bel Air over the Buzz?
Yuli did a review on his channel, and he threw the driver, and it went straight right.
Yeah.
And like that's a beginner friendly disc.
Yep,
and,
it is.
and that's a market. We were talking about it, right? That could be a market for it, but it was very flippy, and it's just going to be completely inappropriate for pros.
Yep.
And that's fine. I mean, look, like Macbeth made the Hades and doesn't even throw it, and that thing sold like crazy because it's a really good driver for lower arm speeds.
Yep. Exactly.
And this could be a similar thing. The what is it called? Skyway.
Skyway.
Sky God. Skyway.
Well, the Skyway is apparently some bridge in Florida.
Yeah, I think they're all like they're connected to where he's from in Florida, which is cool. I like the naming convention.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's admittedly cool to have a putter called a Champ.
Agreed. Man,
well,
that's
we'll
the
see.
one that I feel like Innova missed on. Like, pick a different putter.
They've done nothing. They've just sort of slapped his name on stuff and called it a day.
I don't blame anybody in this. I'm not sold on it yet, though.
All right, let's get to our interview with Big Jerm. We're going to talk, of course, about his decision to leave Innova and join MVP, what it's in store for his future, and then we'll discuss the deal and what we know of it right after the interview. Stick around. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, the Rufus Custom Builder is now better than ever. Rufus, my bag, I love it so much. You got to get one, and you can get it exactly how you want it to look with the Custom Builder. It now comes standard with double convertible long haul pockets and lower detail zipper pockets. And you can also add upper detail pockets if you want. You can also change the zippers if you want a really chunky zipper because you really use your bag hard. You can add that. More color options available. And restock of a bunch of fabric colors along with the new 3-color PVC patch in Coyote, Sage, and Bordeaux. Absolutely beautiful bags. Looking like you will just like camouflage yourself into the desert landscape. Check it all out at pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot from New Zealand, where it's bright and early, is Jeremy Koling, who just announced a new 4-year deal with MVP. Jeremy, welcome back to the pod. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm currently in summertime. The day that we left Charlotte, it was snowing, which is kind of rare for Charlotte, but yeah, it was cold. It was kind of hard to pack for 3 weeks for a trip that's going to be in summertime across the world. But it's been a bucket list for Jules to get down here to the southern part of the world. And it's been 8 years for me since I've been back. New Zealand is, in my opinion, it's in the top 2 most beautiful countries in the world. I consider this place to be just absolute heaven, especially this time of year. So loving life right now.
Well, fantastic. I mean, what a piece of news. I have to say, I've heard the rumor. I'd heard the rumors about it being MVP, so this doesn't come as a surprise to me. But I think for many, it's going to be one of the biggest surprises of the off season. I was actually looking at an old interview that you did. I don't know, sometime maybe 2017, 2018, and you said you expected to retire as an Innova player. And of course, that's I guess we'll still see what happens in the future, but you make this change at kind of a late point in your career. What was the impetus behind wanting to make such a big change with, how synonymous you've become with Innova and the Thunderbird and such?
That's a great question, Charlie. There's a lot behind that. And yes, I think it is true. For a long time, I did think that I would retire with the wings on my back. Innova felt like a coming home story for me when I initially left Prodigy and came to Innova. Even though I never had been sponsored by Innova, it was in my backyard. My best friend has really been working there for 18 years. And I just had personal relationships with so many people inside the business before I even joined the company. So it just felt right. But I was also a lot younger, and also the sport was in a very different place, and you can't really predict what changes the sport has in the future. And, we've had so many incredible pieces of growth and, every single year there's new things shifting in the sport. So like to make a statement like that when you're in your early 30s is kind of a little bit, ignorant because you don't really know what the future holds. And so, although I did make that statement thinking it was going to be true. There's a lot of things that, there's a lot of moving parts in play. And, I'd say that the main impetus behind me leaving Innova, was just a kind of a partly Innova shifting their their role as, looking at how players are sponsored and what the value is as a team. They've made a lot of changes to their team in the past. And, they still have a really solid team. Obviously they have the world champion with Evelina. They've got Calvin, obviously a staple of the brand with Nate Sexton and so many great players, Cat Merch, up and coming player. And a lot of faces that are very familiar in the sport. And their team is strong, but I don't think that they, are necessarily as invested in growing a team or having a team be as large as some of these other brands. I mean, Innova has a huge team already, and it's a lot of responsibility. And that this is true for all brands across the board. Every time a company brings in a new sponsored player, there's a lot of investment they have in that person. And if they don't feel like they can continue to give what that person deserves in time and all that, then it becomes more of a liability. And, it's difficult to, as these companies grow and they add more players, there's more investment they have in time to each person to make sure that they don't feel like they're being overlooked. And so, Innova wanted to keep me on the team and I wanted to be on the team. It just wasn't necessarily, under the terms that necessarily I felt like I deserved. And, it just motivated me to look and see what was out there. And I hadn't really thought about even doing that before. Because like I said before, I thought, this Innova thing would probably last the rest of my career. And the moment that I started looking to see what else was out there, there were so many things that connected my ideology in the sport with MVP. Their discs are shaped really, really well for forehand players. And obviously I've always been a predominant forehand player. And then there's the whole ideology of their progressiveness and, what the science and technology goes behind the discs, and talking about people like nerding out on MVP because they love the gyro technology. Like I am a huge nerd when it comes to specs and information about what goes behind the scenes into making a product, whether that's bags, carts, discs, clothing, all that stuff. I am a geek for all the information in all the businesses that I associate myself with. And so, MVP had so much interesting stuff to learn. And if I'm being quite honest, it's the brand I knew the very least about as far as the major manufacturers that are in play in today's sport. And so I got the opportunity to learn the most. And it was, there was this time when I was like, man, this is a big undertaking here. Like there's so much to learn, so many molds. And then, I'm so comfortable with my bag, and there's comforts that you're lost. And there's obviously brand recognition within Innova and all that. However, this shift actually did something for me that I actually didn't even expect, in that it reinvigorated and reinstilled a love for the game that kind of has this childlike quality that I lost a long time ago. It's been a business for me for so long that it's a lot of times business as usual, and you don't really have this excitement and exuberance to go out and explore flight, and that to me is what brought me in the sport in the first place. Like loving the connection between my arm, my wrist, my hands, my fingers, into creating a flight pattern that suited my eyes and my, that right there is the basis of why I found disc golf and why I loved it. It just was this thing that we all connect with, that when you find the love of the game. And when you kind of lose that search for, that creativity and how you can execute your will in that way, it loses the love of the sport. And so I'm so happy to have refound that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, did you reach out to MVP and maybe other manufacturers as your contract was coming up, or did they reach out to you? And it kind of like you realized that there might be another deal out there.
In the past, they have made it clear that they were interested in me and my brand and what I brought to the sport as a unique professional, in that I bring media side, I bring the playing side, I bring a personality and all that. But honestly, like, I just didn't really take it seriously because I didn't really see a need to leave Innova. And, but yeah, when it was time to kind of just search the market and see what was out there, MVP was one of the first brands that Blake Schaefer, my agent, reached out to because he loves what they have going on. And he was one of the guys that really educated me a lot on what they're doing up there in Marlette. And so, yeah, MVP was like really the only one that seemed like a real good, solid fit. And so that was like, we really focused a lot on them. And but it was mutual. Like, their excitement when I, kind of opened the door was palpable, and the giddiness when I got to meet Brad and Chad was awesome. Like, we both were really, really, really pumped up about it. So, but yeah, I would classify it as a mutual. We kind of sought each other out in a way. It was kind of, I feel like in a lot of ways, it was a long time in the making.
So, how much can you talk about the deal itself? Because you mentioned already, you are sort of in this unique spot where you're not necessarily somebody who's finishing top 10 on tour week in, week out, but you are a popular player and in some ways more visible even than a lot of the players who do finish maybe higher than you on the leaderboard. So is there like a bonus structure for being a commentator? Is that just sort of baked in? Can you talk about the money? I'm just really curious to know how this is structured.
Yeah. No, I can't really get into the specifics on that. But I can say that, it's a 4-year deal, which is mentioned in the announcement video. It's what I was looking for. To be honest, one of the things that made Innova not necessarily attractive as re-signing with them is that they were only offering 2 years. And I really am not trying to be in a place where I play a season with no concerns, and then the next season, halfway through the year, I'm like, oh gosh, it's a contract year. And so that really is not necessarily the pressure that I want to be living with week to week. And so I wanted something a little bit more long-term. I wanted to, dedicate myself to a brand, and a brand to dedicate themselves to me for a longer period of time. And so that was a really attractive thing right from the get-go. MVP knew that they wanted me for a while in this transitioning stage of my career. And that meant a lot to me, honestly. They put a lot of faith in me and my brand and what I bring to the table. And that means a lot. I mean, that means the world to me, really. That shows that they know what value and influence I potentially have, and they know what I'm about, and they know that this isn't necessarily the MPO champion phase of my career. I might take down an A tier. Who knows? I could be relevant in a Pro Tour event. I'm sure a lot of haters online don't think that's possible, but it's true. I mean, I have the skill to still do that. If my body and my mind all connect, there's no reason. I have the capability.
You had a top 5 this year.
I did. And, I've got the forehand backhand combo, and if the putts are dropping, there's no reason at all that I can't finish with anyone else in the world. It's just, I have the talent to do it. It's just a matter of actually doing it. So anyways, it's not about that though. And I think that that's really important because I don't want the pressure to be expected to finish that way anymore, because I'm 39 years old. I turned 40 in October. I plan on playing Masters majors, and I plan on playing in the Disc Golf Pro Tour and doing commentary and doing the same thing that I've essentially done in the past. Kind of a game show host of the putting games and the practice round host and all those other things. I wear a lot of hats in the sport. And so, yeah, that as far as the contract goes, we came to an agreement with something that was longer term. I'm taken care of in a great way. I feel comfortable. Jules and I are a single income household, and we are trying to build a family. And, we need a contract that facilitated that, and MVP provided that. And it's an incredible deal for me. And, But there's so many intangibles that aren't necessarily dollars and cents. It's really, I want to feel like I belong to the right place. And that has always been important to me. And anyone who's ever paid attention to the sponsors that I take on, I always make sure that I am with a product that I can 100% be fully honest about. I don't have to sell the product. I just show the product and how much I enjoy it. And that sells itself. I don't want to ever be like, dude, you guys got to check this out. There's a deal right now going on. I hate that businessman aspect of it. To be honest, that's the value I bring to companies. That's why they want to sponsor me, is because I can help sell things. But I want it to be done naturally. And I think that I can do that very well with MVP.
All right. So, it's been 8 years of Innova. You got a new bag debuting today, right? You're doing skins today?
Skins today, this afternoon. That's right.
Exciting. So, obviously we're all going to get to see you throw in some new plastic very shortly. What are you liking so far from MVP? And, do you feel like you've settled on a bag yet?
Of course not. No chance. I mean, the bag's going to...
Fair.
I think that I've got a really good idea. I think I've got a pretty good idea. I mean, I've thrown a lot of molds, but they have so many things that they offer and so many different plastic choices. So this will be something that's evolving over time, something that I'll be leaning on the MVP community for help and advice. Simon and Eagle have been incredibly generous, and they've both sent me a box of their goodies, things that they know that I would like. And so I've been integrating that into my bag. But the things that I know right from the get-go that I love, I mean, I can't overstate it. I don't think the community can overstate it, but the Hex is the best mid-range ever made. It's not hyperbole. It's the truth. It's the best straight mid-range ever. I didn't even know about it until recently. And when I threw it, I was like, that was incredibly good. I wonder if this next one will be as good as that one. And then it just connected. It hasn't been since I could throw the Buzz back in my Discraft days from 08 to 2012 that I had a straight mid-range that I could forehand on hyzer line, straight line, and hyzer line, late flip, like all the different types of technical shots that you see traditional backhand players do with their mid-ranges. I haven't had a mid-range that could do that. That being said, I think the Buzz is a little bit too overstable out of the gates to do what I'm looking for it to do. The Hex is that straight the moment you get it. And it's reactive to all the angles. It has integrity. It has torque resistance. It has all the things. I didn't even know about it. And throwing that disc for the last couple of months in this transition phase has been a real joy. So that's like hands down my favorite new mold out the gate. The Trail is an incredibly interesting fairway distance driver. They call it a 10 speed, but it flies like a 13 speed in some ways because it's got so much glide. I think it has an incredible, perfect stability for like fairway shots, but also I'll be using it in the open. So as far as fast disc, I love that. I love the dimension. Kind of as my overstable flex headwind control driver, kind of like in the place of my Boss in a way, which is a disc I leaned on heavily for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. I like the Trace. There's so many discs I like. As far as approach discs, oh my God, their approach game is incredible. But the Pyro is kind of this like old school feeling mid range that kind of feels a little funky the first time you grab it, and then you throw it and you're like, oh yeah, that's money. So as far as overstable mids, the Pyro is really great, but the Tempo is going to be probably the disc I lean on the most for the 260 and in approach shots, which, everyone knew that I was a big AVRX3 fan. And I think the Tempo is going to be a disc that's going to be kind of a seamless transition into MVP. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Initially, and I think probably moving forward, I'll be putting with Pixels. And then, there's just so many other discs. For Woods fairway shots, oh my gosh, the Crave is incredible. For years, I had to find 11-time Eagles that were beat up to fly in this like flip up straight. And a Crave just is like that out of the box. And so that's really exciting that I don't have to go through the gems and have an old friend send me a disc that they beat up for 12 years. I can just get one straight out of the box and it just does exactly what I want. So, there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of unknowns right now. So it's going to be a bag building process that's going to take a while.
Well, Jerm, I'm really curious. You've been around a long time. You've seen the game go through various phases, and it's been a really interesting off season. I mean, we've had the COVID boom, Now we're kind of in a little bit of a downturn. A flattish to downish. And so, we've seen some tumult, right? Some pros not getting re-signed. Some big moves, you away from Innova, but maybe even more surprising, Ken Climo going to his own brand under Discraft. What do you make of this offseason that obviously you're a big part of, and kind of what it means about where the sport is right now?
Where the sport is right now, that's a loaded question. There's so much to say to that. But as far as this offseason goes, I'd say, a little biased here, but it's obviously one of the more interesting ones I've experienced in a long time. Being a part of the big shift that happened in professional disc golf back in the 2012 to 2013 season, when Prodigy emerged and grabbed 12 elite players from all the different brands. I feel like every year, right around the second week of January, every fan's like, "This is the craziest offseason ever." But genuinely, I think this is one of the more interesting in terms of Climo's move was, first off, Climo, where have you been? Climo's been kind of doing his own thing for a while and focusing on himself and his health and his family, and hasn't really had that much to do with disc golf, which has kind of been a sad thing for a person like me who grew up a big Climo fan, and then seeing him transition into the Masters phase of his career, and then just kind of he's gone for a while, and such an instrumental part of the sport's growth. And now, after kind of being dormant for a while, just like announcing, "Hey man, I'm back, and also bye Innova, thank you for everything." That's a crazy shift in the sport for sure. I thought Latitude 64 was done with North American players, so Isaac going to Latitude 64 was a pretty big move and kind of opened my eyes. Like, maybe they're not done with North America, they just are being more selective. Ezra to Discraft, not that big of a surprise, but seeing them not sponsored by the same company will be interesting, kind of grow with the whole sibling rivalry that has been fun to watch shape up over the last couple of years. And I think that the synonymous name of Koling and Innova has been, pretty cemented for a long time. And so I knew that when this information was going to get leaked out to the public, that it was going to be, wait, what? Like, that's, crazy. So I was kind of excited to see the excitement that I hoped would grow. And so far what I've seen has been, really incredibly, well, it's not always positive, but it's like 99.9% incredibly positive. Yeah, it's been amazing to see it happen. And I'd say that this has been maybe a top 2 or 3 unexpected type of off season for moves in the sport, especially with like something like 80 something players were coming to the end of their contract at the end of the 2024 season.
Yeah.
And all the changes that have happened from that just add to this kind of craziness that's been stirring around in the sport. And surprised by some of the Innova moves, like Emerson Keith, who really seemed to be a great fit at Innova. Just he's there for not even a full season and then he's gone. And that I feel bad for him, because I know how great of a player Emerson Keith is. Lone Star and what's been happening with that brand has been really, it's been interesting to watch unfold. But like, I think of great players that are doing incredibly great in the sport and are great humans, like Jake Hebenheimer. He's a great player. He's a great dude. He's a good friend of mine. And yet these players that are like that, they're having a hard time finding a home, because the sport is in this really interesting shift where they're trying to figure out where this little downturn is going, and what is the value of having a great player on our team. And a lot of it falls on the community. If you love these players, buy their discs and let these manufacturers know that you support these players and that their name can sell. And if their name can't sell, then they don't provide a ton of value. And that's really the end of it. That's what's important here to these major manufacturers. They might be great fans of the sport. They might love these players, but if their name isn't actually producing dollars for this company, then it's a bad investment. And you can only make so many bad investments before you go under. So It's been it's been a whirlwind of an off season for sure.
Well, you could just rap on anything. I could ask you any question about the tour. You can just go. I love it. You know more than I do.
I will do a podcast. I will do a podcast at some point.
Well, hey,
for
I mean,
sure.
there's
I've
a
got
new
lot
one,
of
right?
plans.
Simon and Eagle doing a pod with Joey Tamale over there at MVP.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I love joining on them, but I don't necessarily love the planning that goes into all the things. If I had someone to be a producer for me, then had everything set up, I could provide the talking part of it for
All
sure.
right. Well, I'm going to keep it in mind. So yeah, you might hear from me.
All right, sounds good.
So a couple of things. Are you under contract with Jomez? Like, is there like a multi-year deal kind of thing there, or is that more of like you just keep getting asked back and you keep doing it?
Jomez has been the chillest professional relationship since the very beginning. There was the only contract per se that I can think of was if Nate and I worked together as the big sexy team, we couldn't work for anyone else. So like and that actually, we had a caveat in that if that's the case, we could still work majors because majors were such a big deal that, Nate and I actually worked, I think, a couple of Spin TV for UC. So
when Jomez didn't have the deal.
Exactly. But does that mean that I couldn't do commentary for GoThrow or anyone else? No, I'm a free agent. I'm a, general contractor, I guess you could say, of commentary. But yeah, it's just kind of like known. And that's how it's always worked in our relationship, that it's just known that I'm going to be available because I love those guys. I love working with them and they love working with me. And so it's a symbiotic relationship. It's always been handshakes. There's contracts as far as like if I show up, what I get compensated for my time and effort.
Sure.
But as far as like exclusivity or no compete clauses or anything like that, there's never been anything like that. And they wouldn't have to worry about it. Like if I did commentary for one other brand for one round, fun. But that's really, they know that my allegiance and my loyalty lie with their brand.
Do you feel like things have changed with Jomez since the Pro Tour acquired them?
Yeah, initially there was some, there's been changes, but nothing negative. Initially I would say that the only thing that was kind of negative was that, and it was necessary, completely necessary, but we were incredibly, I say we were not conservative with our budget. We were pretty loose. And so that's kind of where Jomez ran into some problems. It was a very much like Jonathan just said yes. Like, hey man, I got this idea. The budget's this and let's go for it. And at a certain point, you realize, oh, we're a little bit over our head here. And so when DGPT, or DGN specifically, took over, there were some budget cuts. And one of the things that we lost was the Jomez Pro putting games. And that was kind of a bummer, because I really enjoyed being a part of that, seeing the growth of that, and the fans really loved it too. And they were outspoken and DGN listened. And so therefore season 3 putting games returned this last year. But yeah, I mean, like, as far as like the financial end of it, it is a lot different. And sometimes it feels very businesslike, where it didn't necessarily always feel so businesslike in the early days, in the wild, wild west days of Jomez. But like, remember that this brand has changed the sport, and initially started off with Jonathan, Jerry, and Follow Flight Mike. It's 3 dudes doing all this work. And then Nate and myself would come in and do some commentary. There's like 5 people associated with the brand, and it grew from there. And then, there was over 20 something employees, and, there's been different contractors coming in and out that will do filming, drone flying, editing, slow-mo, all these different things. Obviously Christina behind the social media page, Chris behind, the merchandise stuff. So the online sales and all these things like that, things that you don't necessarily think about. There's like tons of people underneath this brand, and DGN, it's their job to make sure it's a profitable business. So they've got to make sure that there's, the dollars and cents make sense, and that, that they're not over budget with these things. And that's it's a tough thing to manage a business like that. And so those are things that maybe were a little bit more like loose and lax in the original days, but there wasn't so much overhead either. So,
all right. Well, I guess I'm curious to know, how much are you planning to play moving forward versus moving more into like a media focused role, even beyond what you're already doing? Are you planning to still play essentially a full tour?
Yeah, the plan is to kind of go back into the normal schedule of things. I plan on following Jomez to as many Pro Tour events as I can play. And I plan on, skipping out on the tour events that conflict with the majors for the Masters events. And yeah, I mean, I have a full schedule planned. So it won't be anything different for me, except for my eligibility into the Big Daddies division. And so I'll skip away from the piece for a bit for those big major titles.
All right, last thing. There was a little bit of plastic featured at the end of your announcement video, maybe looking like some kind of metal flake type situation. Can you tell us more?
Just be patient for a few days. It's something new. It's something really cool, and I think everyone's going to really like it a lot.
All right, Jerm. Well, thanks so much. We'll let you go. Have a great day, and good luck with the skins and in the tournaments down under.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today.
Jeremy Koling with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Josh, I am getting a new camera. I've done what I can. I've tried. I called Logitech. I've done all the things. It's still glitching like crazy. I'm sorry, everybody on YouTube. Logitech's like, oh, it's the adapter's fault. I'm like, no, it's not. I tried a different adapter. Your software isn't compatible. But I'm gonna get the upgrade. I'm gonna get the better cam. It's all good. Everything's gonna be fine soon.
Nice.
Hopefully next week.
Soon.
I also got something for you.
Okay.
Shout out to Rare Air Discs. This just arrived in the mail for me.
Oh my god. Song of the summer, baby.
Song of the summer. It's going on the wall, baby.
Oh man.
Silas Schultz Disc Golf. They sold these for $40. 40. That was the peak.
And they sold out.
There was the helicopter with Ricky and Kona, and there was the $40 like House of discs. But they sold it out. $40.
Listen.
It's going on the wall.
In hindsight, I should have bought one of those discs. I did not think this was going to keep being a deal, and I should have bought one at $40. I would have done it.
I have good news for you, Josh.
Oh, okay.
Because Silas sent me one. It's on the way.
Okay.
And then this arrived, and I was like, I thought Silas had a white one for me. When it arrives, I will do the unboxing, and then I will put it back in the box, and I will ship it to you.
Deal. I'll buy that white one off of you. Whatever you paid, I'll pay the pass through. Then we can both the Upshot just as Song of the Summer discs.
You just have one disc behind you.
That's it.
All right.
Oh man.
Let's talk about Jerm. So sorry you couldn't be there for the interview, Josh. You've had a chance to listen to it. This is not some grand change. This is just Jerm getting a new sponsor and getting more money. Let's be honest about it. And I think this is exactly what I said when we were talking about where Jerm would land. And it was like, well, Discraft really feels like it makes the most sense because we, Climo and then Kale, and you're like, okay, maybe Jerm too. But what I said at the time, MVP wants media presence, and they have it with Madison Walker, but they don't have an MPO counterpart, and now they do. Jerm is, obviously, is he the most prominent commentator?
Yes.
You think above Sexton?
I think that
Because Sexton does a little more live and a little less Jomez now.
But he doesn't like. I think Sexton is getting back there. Sexton will elevate himself back above. The issue that we had, I think, is that Sexton like kind of fell off on both post pro and live for a while.
It's true.
And especially during peak times, and then now he's coming back in. I think Sexton is the better commentator, but people love Jerm. He's goofy, he's funny. It feels watching Jomez like that is such a big deal, and Jerm is just kind of the staple and has been of Jomez, and Jerm has done a little live now, and so I really think that Jerm might be the commentator right now. That people love the most.
Yeah. And I when I was writing this up yesterday, for the website, I was like, MVP keeps signing like really popular players.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the 2024 fandom survey data, and then I looked at the top 20, and I was like, how many are signed to each brand? And MVP has the most of the top 20. They have 6 players from the top 20. Simon, Silva, Eagle, Jerm, James Conrad, Madison Walker. That's ahead of Innova, who has 5, ahead of Discraft, who has 4, ahead of House of Discs, who has 4.
And that is with 5 of those 6 players not even registering a win on tour.
Right.
Like Simon has 1 win this season, and that was it.
Right. And like, if guys like that keep not winning, maybe you have concern. But nobody's fandom or like affinity for Jeremy Koling is connected to his on-course performance.
None, not anymore. Nope. And
so like this, to me, this is just like smart marketing from MVP. The point is not to have winners. The point is to have players who sell your product.
Yep.
People want to buy discs from people they like.
Man, gosh dang. The gyro Jerm that he posted, I was like, come on. Don't give them that. The gyro knots are obnoxious enough. Don't give them gyro Jerm.
But, if you look at the bottom of the fandom survey people, which, by the way, to even be included in the fandom survey, you have to be a notable pro of some degree. But look at the bottom people, so you have Natalie Ryan, who's dead last, but, is connected to a brand that is trying to do something different.
Sure.
Nico, back to, whatever, some brand.
Mellow Golf, right?
Whatever it is, right. Joel Freeman got dropped. Drew Gibson is kind of doing his own thing, / isn't touring anymore. Chandler Kramer, I don't think he has a new home yet, right?
Not that I've seen.
Emerson Keith got dropped. Then you've got Katrina, long-term deal with DGA.
Yep.
Randon Latta, I think the last I heard, he's not touring.
Is that
because he couldn't get a deal?
Oh,
and
really?
I don't think he's unpopular. I just think
he's just not well
known.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Jake Hebenheimer, I don't think he has a deal. If you're not, and let's be honest, right? Randon Latta probably had a better season than Simon.
Yep.
Is that a crazy take? That is. I'm just firing from the hip on that one.
Okay. Let me give you this though. Definitely had a better season than Eagle, right?
Well, I don't know.
Let's go look.
Randon Latta finished 53rd on tour.
Okay. Probably
Eagle
not better than
28th.
Okay.
Simon finished 20th. So I make up lies.
Bad take.
Terrible take. I feel like we were talking about Randon more towards the end of the season.
Okay, how about this? I'll give you this though. Randon Latta finished 53rd. Jeremy Koling finished 64th.
Right. But anyway, you get my point. Point.
Right. I do get your point. I think it's a completely valid point. Watch out. The MVP people are coming for you now. After you
I have no beef. Beef.
No, after you said Simon and Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
Simon had a worse season than Randon Latta.
Scandalous take.
No, I know you don't
I
have
mean,
any beef
Simon
with MVP.
played awesome at the beginning of the year.
Right, yeah. And then just had another kid.
And honestly, Eagle was like pretty damn good.
Eagle was better than I remember.
Play for much of the beginning of the season, and it was not really in contention much.
Yeah.
So you kind of hold people like that to a higher standard. But your performance on the course is not enough, like, to just automatically get you a good deal. So I don't know. We'll see. It's an interesting situation. But Jerm to MVP, like, there's nothing. It just feels like it makes sense to me. They both have a reason to make the deal. And as Jerm said, he wanted a longer term deal, and Innova wasn't offering it.
Yep. That's good for him.
I'm surprised they let him walk, but they keep letting guys walk.
Yeah, I am too. I think you maybe don't let him walk if you still had kind of the monopoly on Jomez, right? If Yuli was on Innova, for example, and you had, Big Sexy Barry commentary, then I think you're a little more hard pressed to let them walk. But they already don't have Yuli, so keep the guy who has a criminal enterprise and money printing machines in the Sexton Firebird. Jerm's Thunderbirds were popular, but they're not Sexton's Firebirds, right? So
right.
Good for both parties.
I agree. The last thing today, hey, we got some disc golf coming up, Josh.
We got some disc golf. I'm gonna watch this.
Out of nowhere, the Memorial. Out of nowhere. Like,
Kale said that to us, and I was like, why are you flying to Arizona, man? That's weird. It's a Memorial. What? No, it's not.
So yeah, some issue with Fountain Hills later when they normally have the tournament in February or March. So they're back. 343 players registered. 176 players in MPO and FPO. They have the age protected divisions. 84 MPO.
Yep.
16 FPO. No, this is not a tour level event, but let's be excited about especially the top of MPO. Gannon, Ricky, AB, Eagle, and then Noah Meinsma, Parker Welk, Ezra Aderhold, Connor Rock, Levi Hancock, a bunch of players above 1,000.
Top card though.
That's pure heat.
Yep. Gannon, Ricky, AB, Eagle.
No, Eagle's not on the lead card.
Whatever. He's still top card.
They got Connor Rock up there, probably because he's a local.
Yeah.
But yeah, AB, Ricky, Connor, Gannon will be the filmed card. I think Terry's doing coverage.
I think I saw on his Instagram he was on his way down. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
You got to tune into this. I'm starved for some disc golf.
Let me ask you, because in past off seasons,
Gannon, Ricky, AB, that's probably the big three going into the season, right?
Yeah, top tier. Yes, I'm very excited to see that. Let me ask you something, because last season, we get into the off season, and it felt like the off season was a lot shorter and went faster. And so by the time Memorial happened, I was like, oh yeah, Memorial happened, whatever. And this year I'm like, oh, thank goodness there's some disc golf. I need to go watch this. I don't know why that is this year as opposed to last year, but I really want to watch this event, and I am one of the quickest to tell you that Memorial should not be a tour stop. It's just not suitable for today's game. But man, I am excited to watch some top disc golf.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be a tour stop, but this is what it should be.
Yes, yeah.
So
nice
I'm excited.
Event.
FPO's not nearly as crowded up top. Jen Allen is the top rated player at 953. Violet Main, who's not someone I've heard of, 931 rated, out of San Luis Obispo, looks like a young up and comer. Okay. So I'm kind of excited to see how she does. Should be cool. Ratana Meekum is playing.
I've got a question. How much did Jennifer Allen pay OWN to not show up to this event? Because Jen Allen used to own this event, and then OWN was like, nah, this is mine now. and Owen came out and was winning it, even though like it's known as like you want the arm, but I'm wondering how much Jen Allen paid Owen not to come to this event.
Yeah, Owen beat Jen Allen by 8 strokes last year.
Yeah.
Last year, Gannon took it down 2 strokes ahead of Aaron Gossage, with AB another 5 shots back of that. So, look, I'm excited because, look, it's a winter tournament. It honestly feels good to have it in January because it's like sunny and warm, and we're all in the cold, and it's like, I'm going to tune in and watch these guys throw like 500-foot hyzers on a course that would destroy us, but is very, very, very easy for them.
Yep.
So,
all right, Charlie.
I don't mind a little hyzer Olympics when I haven't watched disc golf in 3 months.
Yep. Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
You got your top players. Which one of them is going to shoot the 1100 rated round this weekend?
I'll go AB.
Okay. I think I'll take Gannon. Ricky could do it, but I think it's probably either AB or Gannon.
AB did it last year. He shot 1116, rated 39 on Fountain. I think that was the only 1100 rated round that year.
Okay.
Yep. It's going to happen. Someone's going to do it.
It's totally going to happen.
Should we just, doesn't count towards the season, but let's just pick our winners.
All right. Let's do it.
I'm taking Jen Allen. It's easy enough. I assume you are too.
Yeah, probably.
So who are you going to take?
Give me, man, I feel so bad doing this, but give me chalk off top for the season. I want Gannon.
I'll take AB.
I think it's between those two.
I really hope Eagle wins because it would really
yes.
It would be a hype start to 2025.
It would.
For Eagle to come out and beat those guys, right?
Yeah. Yep. It would.
He's played the Memorial a few times, right? I'm checking his Statmando page because I want to see how he's done here in the past. He has been a while. He played it. He finished second in 2020. He won it in 2019. That might have been his first NT win. He finished second in 2018. He averaged 1079 when he won it in 2019 and 1068 last year. For some context, Gannon won it at 1054 rated this past year.
Okay.
He's got back-to-back wins at the Memorial, by the way.
Gannon. Yeah. Listen, AB is better than he was in those years. But
I feel like this was quite fun last year too. So I'm fired up. We got some disc golf to watch. It'll be on the Disc Golf Guy YouTube channel, and we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we will.
So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't miss our subscriber bonus segment where we predict where the rest of these pros are going before the offseason wraps up. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.